Good afternoon. I'd like to introduce the next panel on case studies on social media strategies and citizen journalism, which is going to be moderated by Alex Tohme. I would also like to point out that for those of you who don't understand Arabic or English, we have live translation happening, and we're going to have some Arabic going through the presentation later on. The headphones are available just next to the screen in front of you over there for those of you who want them. Alex?
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody, or should I say good afternoon. On my left is Munir, who works for Hibber, and farther left is Mohammed, who works for Social Media Exchange. I'm just going to ask both of them to go through a little bit about what they do with the companies they work for. And then we're going to go through a couple of presentations. We'll start with Mohammed and then Munir afterwards. If you'd like to tell everyone what you do.
Okay, sure. Hibber is a youth-powered alternative media outlet here in Lebanon. We work with a lot of different youth organizations, students, young people, universities, etc., to create journalism, media, kind of hybrid citizen media content that we then package up, put online, and publish in a newspaper that gets distributed around the country. 25,000 copies each month. And last year we worked with about over 500 young people all around the country to work with them to create content and basic trainings in citizen media, stuff like that. That's the basic stuff.
Thanks, Alex and Munir. We do training on social media and new media in Lebanon and in the region. We do training in Arabic, mostly on how to use social media strategically for NGOs and civil society. For the last 2 years, we've been doing this, yeah.
Great. So if you'd like to start with your presentation on the
Sure.
how to build an online strategic social media presence.
حضرت أنا بعض النقاط يلي حسيتها أساسية إنه بس بدنا نحكي عن تواجد إلكتروني لأي مؤسسة صغيرة أو مجموعة أو منظمة أو جمعية. طلعوا معنا 9 تقريبا، يعني في هو كتير شغلات لحتى واحد يحكي عنها، بس نحن عم نجرب نحط بعض النقاط لنحكي عن هذا الموضوع. فإذا بعض النقاط يلي نحن حسيناها أساسية لحتى واحد بده يفكر بالحضور الإلكتروني تبعه. أول شغلة أساسية هي تكون الواحد عنده هوية بصرية موحدة، يعني يكون مثلا عنده visual identity، لأنه في كتير نحن مطارح بنروح عليها بنحس إنه مش معروف الايدنتيتي تبع هذه المجموعه، او مثلا في كثير نحن مجموعات او ويب سايتس بنروح عليهم بنعرفهم من اللوجو تبعهم من دون حتى ما نقرا الاسم، فهذه كثير بتساعد لحتى واحد يكون عنده حضور الكتروني استراتيجي. النقطه الثانيه اللي هي كثير اساسيه يكون واحد عنده موقع الكتروني منظم، يعني مثلا نحن بنروح على مواقع بنفوت عليها ما بنعرف كيف بدنا نبلش نقرا الموقع من الشمال لليمين او من اليمين على الشمال، طلوع نزول، بتكون المعلومات كلها منا واضحه ومبعثره، فواحد بضيع امرار بالمواقع المعينه. وفي كثير ناس يعني بعد لحد هلا في مواقع نحن بنروح عليها بعدها معموله من سنين قديمه، وبعدها اصحاب المواقع كمان ما قادرين يعملوا ابديتس بسهوله. فكتير مهم انه واحد يكون عم يستخدم المصادر المفتوحه يلي هي الاوبن سورس لحتى تساعد يكون الابديت سهل، يكون التحديث سهل. كمان شغله اساسيه يكون في هدف واضح، يعني مثلا الموقع شو الهدف تبعه هذا الموقع، وهول النقاط منهم سهلين على فكره لحتى واحد يبلش يطبقهم، بس هول الافكار عم بشاركهم معكم. لازم يكون في هدف واضح، اذا واحد بده يعمل ويب سايت تبعه ليش عم بيعمله، لازم يفهم كمان الجمهور تبعه، انه انا اذا هذا الهدف تبعي لازم انا اعرف مين الجمهور تبعي، بده يكون فهمان الجمهور تبعه كيف بيفكر حتى يقدر يعمل هيدا الشيء. كمان شغله اساسيه يلي هو الواحد في كثير هلا ناس عم بيعملوا سوشيال ميديا كيف ما كان، يعني مثلا حدا بيعمل يلا فيسبوك بيج، تويتر اكاونت، فيسبوك بروفايل، يوتيوب، فليكر، بيكون على كل المطارح. ونحن هيك على فكره، مش عم بقول هيدا الشيء انه نحن ما عم نعمل هيك، بس بعدين الواحد بيوقع بمشكله انه بده واحد اشخاص ليساعدوه لحتى يقدر يعمل ابديتس لهيدي القنوات كلها، وكل قناه لازم يكون لها استراتيجيه معينه. في كثير ناس بيدمجوا كل القنوات مع بعض، يمكن هيدي الاستراتيجيه تبعهم، بس بشكل عام كل قناه لازم يكون لها استراتيجيه لحالها. كمان هيدي بتطرح النقطه اللي بعدها يلي هي الموارد البشريه. يعني الواحد بس يكون عنده كثير شغلات، بالاخص بالسوشيال ميديا اهم شغله يكون في هيومن ريسورس، يكون في اشخاص جاهزين لحتى يقدروا يشوفوا شو عم بيصير ويعملوا ابديتس ويتابعوا المواضيع كلها على القنوات المختلفه على السوشيال ميديا نتورك. والنقطه الاخيره يلي هي قياس الرصد والتقييم، انه نحن بس نعمل شيء اونلاين بدنا نرجع نحن نعرف حالنا، هل هذا الشيء اللي نحن عم نعمله صح او هل هذا الشيء نحن اللي عم نعمله غلط. ففي كثير شغلات موجوده من فيسبوك لجوجل لتويتر لحتى نحن نقدر نعرف مين عم بيجي لعنا على الصفحه وهل في تفاعل مثل ما نحن بدنا. فكل هيدي الشغلات نقاط بتساعدنا انه نبني استراتيجيه للحضور الالكتروني. نرجع يعني اهم نقطه يلي هو الهدف. يعني نحن بس نطلع اونلاين، شو الهدف تبعنا؟ يمكن الهدف تبعنا يكون شغله وحده، يمكن نحن عندنا هدف اساسي وهدف سنوي وهدف سنوي ثالث، بس نحن لازم نحط هالنقاط لحتى نحن نعرف حالنا. وبس نحن كمان نطلع اونلاين بدنا نعرف انه كيف شكل النجاح. يعني انا طلعت اونلاين، هل هيدا انا النجاح تبعي؟ يمكن. او انا طلعت اونلاين لانه بدي اعمل شيء اوفلاين. مثلا انا امبارح كنت عم بحضر I was attending Twestival. Twestival كانوا عاملين شغل كثير حلو اونلاين، وكانت امبارح في ايفنت fundraising for the cancer issue for an organization. فامبارح اجى كثير ناس وقدروا يعملوا كثير fundraising، فكان النجاح تبعهم بالاونلاين اترجم اوفلاين، يعني قدروا يجمعوا كثير مصاري واجى ناس كثير على الايفنت تبعهم. يعني هيك نحن بنقدر نقيس مقياس الاوفلاين انه نجح، انه نحن عملنا شغل اونلاين لحتى نجيب العالم واجى عالم، فذاتس سكسسفول ستوري. بينما اذا نحن عم نعمل شغل كثير اونلاين بينما الاوفلاين عندنا ما كثير عم بيكون في ناس عم بتتابع، فهيدا في مشكله لازم تتظبط معينه. يمكن المشكله مش انه نحن ما عم نعرف نشتغل اونلاين، يمكن المشكله بالهدف بالجمهور، هول شغلات كلهم مع بعض. اوكي. في كثير شغلات نحن صايره معنا قبل كمان، انه بيجي حدا لعنا جمعيه او منظمه او اي حدا او سمول بزنس، يمكن بقلنا انا عندي هيدا الشيء وحابب اعمل اونلاين بريزنس او حابب نعمل سوشيال ميديا عليه. فكتير اساسي نعرف مين الفئه المستهدفه، التارجت اودينس. ما في حدا يقول لكم كل العالم هن التارجت اودينس. يعني هيدي اول سبب لفشل المشروع. ما فينا نقول انه انا بدي استهدفكم كلكم. انا ما في، انا بدي استهدف فئه معينه. هل انا بدي استهدف شباب؟ هل انا بدي استهدف ناس بالجامعات؟ هل انا بدي استهدف امهات؟ هل انا بدي استهدف سمول بزنس مان؟ يعني في تارجت اودينس لازم يكون محدد. في واحد يستعمل كذا تارجت اودينس اكيد، بس لازم هو يكون عارف هيدا الشيء، انه انا التارجت اودينس الاساسي تبعي هن هول الفئه، لازم ركز على هيدا الشيء. بيرجع التارجت الاودينس تبعي الثاني هن هول العالم، ولازم بعدين اكيد ارجع للفكره نقيس المقياس والرصد لحتى نقدر نعرف اذا نحن عم نعمل صح. اوكي، اذا نحن استهدفنا ناس واجوا لعنا، شو يعني كيف بدهم يتفاعلوا معنا؟ اذا انا عم بعمل بروجكت معين او مشروع او بزنس وانا قدرت استهدف هون الناس، بس هن اجوا مطرح ما نحن، طب كيف بدهم يتفاعلوا معنا؟ هيدي كثير اساسيه انه نحن نعرف. هل انا بدي اياهم يجوا لحتى يكبسوا لايك على صفحه الفيسبوك تبعي ذاتس ات، او انا بدي اياهم يجوا لحتى يروحوا على كونفرنس معين، او بدي اياهم يجوا لحتى يمضوا بيتيشن، او بدي اياهم يجوا ليحضروا تدريب معين، او بدي اياهم يجوا لحتى استفيد من النتورك تبعهم. يعني في كثير شغلات واحد لازم يكون هو عارف ليش بدهم اياهم يجوا لعنده. واكيد هيدا بيجاوب على نفس الشيء، يعني شو منتظرين منهم يعملوا؟ فهول بيجوا مع بعض. يعني اذا هن اجوا لعنا نحن شو بدنا اياهم يعملوا عنا؟ فهول سؤالين بيجوا مع بعض. وفي شغله كمان مثلا كمان صارت امبارح بتوستيفل لانه امبارح كنت بالليل وعم بعطي كثير اكزامبل. مثلا امبارح كان في وعد متوستيفل انه اكثر واحد بيعمل تويت هاشتاج توستيفل بيروت بيطلع له تليفون نوكيا، ما هيك؟ تليفون نوكيا. ما بعرف مين ربح على فكره. ما حدا ربح؟ اوكي. ريتا يمكن. anyway يعني نحن بس بدنا نعمل شيء بدنا يعني على طول الشخص بده يمشي شوي يكون موعود بشيء. ما ضروري يكون الوعد على طول شيء فيزيكال، يعني انا بدي اعطيك تليفون. يمكن الوعد يكون شيء ثاني. يمكن الوعد يكون ما بعرف انه يحضر تريننج مجانا او انه يعني في شغلات معينه واحد لازم يعرف الاودينس تبعه لحتى يعرف هن هول الاشخاص بشو مهتمين لحتى انا اوعدهم بهذا الشيء. فهول كمان كلهم مربوطين ببعض. وكمان اساسيه انه بس نحن نوعدهم بشيء نقدر ننفذ هذا الشيء. لانه ما فينا انا اوعد حدا اونلاين واقدر كذب، لانه اي شيء اونلاين اذا انفضح خلص يعني يور يعني وجودك اونلاين تهدد لانه انت عملت شيء وما قدرت توفي وعدك. فهيدي كثير اساسيه انه واحد ينتبه لها. كيف بنقوم بقياس النجاح؟ نرجع بدنا نحن نشوف نحن شو عم نستعمل اول شيء السوشيال ميديا. بدنا نشوف شو في قصص تولز لحتى نحن نعرف كيف العالم عم تجي لعنا، او اذا نحن هل هيدا الشيء اللي بهمنا انه العالم تجي لعنا على الويب سايت او نحن بهمنا العالم تروح على مطرح ثاني. يعني كل هول بيأثروا بالهدف تبعنا. واكيد في كثير شغلات موجوده اونلاين، يعني نحن عم نحكي اكيد بيكون طلع كثير شغلات هلا اونلاين. ففي كثير ناس دغري بصيبهم اوفرويلمينج على الانترنت على السوشيال ميديا، بحسوا حالهم في كثير شغلات يشوفوها. يعني اذا حدا بعده ما مبلش اونلاين استراتيجي، ما عنده ظهور الكتروني، النصيحه له انه ما يكون بكل المطارح، يكون بمطرح واحد ويشتغل استراتيجي اكثر على هذا المطرح الواحد. That's it. Thank you very much.
All right, so there's something that we tell our new interns and other people when they come to our office for the first time, that the period that they work with us will likely be, we want it to be the most difficult, the most fun, and the best learning experience that they have ever had for the months or years or whatever that they're going to be with us, ever had in their past. And so even though those we're talking about a couple months, now we're talking about 15 minutes, prepare yourselves if you guys are thinking about other stuff or you're working on other writing or something like that. I need your attention because this is a participatory thing. I'm really bad at giving presentations per se. I need the clicker. So here we're going to be talking about youth-powered media. Now I wanted to ask people, first of all, how many people here have a blog? How many people here are on Twitter? How many people here opened their Twitter account within the last 6 months, let's say? Okay, a bunch of new folks. How many people here write? Take pictures? Videos? All right, so we have a pretty diverse crowd here with this stuff. What I wanted to ask you guys first is, and there's only, I don't know if there are other microphones, but we're going to have you guys really vocalize, shout as much as possible, because I really want to hear you guys and I want you guys to hear each other. But what do you guys think citizen media? شو هيدا citizen media? What is citizen? Oh, there's no. But people are just going to have to shout, I think, because we're not going to have time to run around with a microphone. What is citizen media? Media generated by citizens. Does it have to be by citizens, so non-citizens can't generate media? I mean, Palestinians in Lebanon are not citizens of any country. Okay, so a citizen not according to nationality, it's just people in the city, in the environment. What is citizen media? Yeah. People sharing their stories online. What else? What's citizen? Wait, hold on, sorry. Relevant content for citizens. Writing pages on Facebook, following people on Twitter. Over here there were some hands or something. No, there was nothing here. Okay, over here. Blogging and microblogging. reporting everything you see. So we're talking about Twitter, we're talking about Facebook, these are different mediums. So, So these are some traditional media outlets. This is Fox News on Facebook. Be afraid, perhaps, I don't know. This is CNN iReport. This is Al Jazeera on Twitter. This is AP asking for stuff on Twitter. So they're using these tools. Are they citizen journalists? No, Assad says no. So there's a lot of mix-up. You're having CNN, you're having Al Jazeera, you're having AP, and many others as traditional media outlets using citizen journalists, asking for content from non-professional, non-staff journalists. The line between citizen media and traditional media is blurring. Oh, this is a very sensitive thing, sorry about that. So here, when we're talking about citizen media, really we're talking about two things. We're talking about the input and the output, both of these processes. Here, first we're going to talk about the input a little bit. Input, in terms of media literacy, that you have to be a critical media consumer. Sorry for the people over here, I hope you can see these things okay. You have to judge what is true, what is not true. Some things you know are not true, but they're pretty damn funny. Other things, sorry, these are a bunch of jokes here from The Onion, etc. You know that they're not true. You know that Hosni Mubarak is not saying, why do you want chaos when you can have order, etc. You know it's not true, but it's funny. And even if it's fake, it's engaging. But sometimes you have to put a bit more thought into it. How many people were here out in these protests in 2000, oh gosh, I don't even remember the date these were. 2006, 2007, I think this is 2005 here. 2006. Pardon? 9th of March edition. You have better eyesight than I do, Assad. Yeah. So this is one here with Nasrallah with one hand raised. And this is another here, the same day, the same speech, the same event, with two hands raised. What's the difference here? Violence. What does two hands mean? And who is that from? Asafir. And what does the one hand mean? Pardon? It's a threatening gesture. And what is that from? This is from An-Nahar. So clearly these people are inserting their own bias here, their own objectives, their own perspectives into this, but they're covering the same event. And so you as the consumer, as a citizen journalist, as an activist, etc., need to apply your own thinking, thought process. Again, the input element of citizen journalism. Here in Hibr, we talk about 5 core IML questions, information and media literacy. 5 core questions. 1, who created the message? 2, how might different people understand the same message differently? 3, what values, lifestyles, and points of view are represented and omitted from this message? 4, why is this message being sent? And 5, what creative techniques are used to attract your attention, our attention? Now, what we're trying to do, we're trying to engage people in the process of content creation, but also for the more effective contributors, that they have to be more critical analysts, observers in these things. Now, it's interesting now, not going back too much into history of media, etc., but the speed of information is changing things dramatically. So, not so long ago, 15 years ago, we had a daily news cycle. We had evening news, and we had a morning newspaper. And there were few outlets, there were few people who were contributing to that. But then that transitioned to the cable 24-hour news. CNN came online. Now, it was 24-hour news. It was much faster than before, but even that was dwarfed when we went to the internet, and it was 24-hour news with more outlets, localization started, etc. The demand for content became much higher. But even that was dwarfed even more when we get to the social media news cycle. Now, even though there are benefits, and we're advocates of Twitter and citizen media, etc., there are also some costs. Now, if you guys remember here, I'm going to use a bunch of examples from Egypt and not to detract from the other things happening in the region. And I have some friends also in Syria and some of these other countries, but I don't know, Egypt somehow has a special place in my heart, and so I've been following it a lot more closely. But there were a lot of news reports days prior to Mubarak actually resigning, of him reportedly soon resigning. And these people, they were pressured by the social media news cycle to be reporting news even before it's confirmed. But they had to be there because everyone else was talking about it. And how can you not talk about it when other people are? and you lose viewers, etc. And this was an interesting thing as well in terms of Al Jazeera versus France 24, which one of our colleagues and partner with Hibbert is doing research on, how they use social media differently. One was more afraid, and one was more supportive of the social media news cycle. But again, the problem of misinformation. I don't know if have any of you guys seen this before? This is a Fox News picture that came out from 2009. It reportedly came out in 2010 as well, in 2011. It kept surfacing, but actually it's from 2009. According to reliable reports, it's factually correct. I don't know if you guys can see up here that in the place of Iraq, they wrote Egypt. So even though citizen journalists are largely unverified, etc., obviously traditional news outlets also make mistakes. So what we're trying to get people, we work with young people mostly, citizen journalists, etc., they have to adopt this element, this cycle. I kind of liken it to the wash, rinse, repeat cycle of observe, think, and care. That you can only be a citizen journalist about something you care about an issue that you're passionate about. Otherwise, you're not going to be interested. You're not going to be following it. You're not going to be creating content that's interesting to you or others. I mean, what are key issues that people here who either create content, are citizen journalists in some way, or otherwise? What are key passions, key interests? What issues do you like to cover, write about? Anybody? Technology. Marketing, okay. Politics, it's always a fun one, I guess. Traveling services, public services, public libraries, leadership. All right, so all the public gardens, I mean, all of these things, no matter how small, how niche your idea is, your interest is, put into the sphere of citizen journalism, citizen media, etc., you can be a very tiny niche crowd of millions of people globally. And even though you might not find people here around interesting to interact with on that, through the sphere, you can generate a community, you can contribute a lot to the community. Now here we've spoken about the input element. Now in terms of the output element, what's great about this is that you guys can write about whatever the heck you pretty much want to write about. No constraints, etc. Here, in terms of Jan 25, just going to look at a couple different examples of how people used social media, citizen media, in covering this crisis. First of all, we had the jokes and we had the artistic element here. Can people read these, by the way? Yes. Yeah? Okay, cool. So I won't go to read them. People had the jokes and the artistic coverage elements. Geez. People had the UNN, your own network news that you were creating. People were creating online, but of real hard journalism, of facts, of interesting content. They were beating, and they were the traditional media outlets with their paid journalists, etc. But it was hard news coverage. Now they also had filtering, curation, and in this world when there's so much more media than any of us could ever consume, the value of curation, the value of selecting content is really, really important. It's very valuable. Selecting content that you think is important, sharing that with your peers online, etc. Even though you're not creating the content, don't undervalue the role of curation. You can use it for advocacy and activism. Sorry. Philosophy. And then this is one of my favorites here, this sort of hybrid one, where you have some citizen journalists curating this. They found this article, which was cool. The article is by a traditional media outlet, which is NPR. Generally, it's radio in the US. It's the largest radio syndicator in the US. But here, they're also doing a lot of stuff online. And NPR was writing a story about how you can follow these protests using citizen media. And so there's this really funny kind of cycle of support, collaboration between the traditional and the citizen journalists. So the same kind of thing. I'm not going to go through it with photo, with video, etc., with blogs, all of the other techniques, the tools, you can adapt as much as you want, but they're the same kind of divisions in terms of what you do here. Of the photos, in terms of activism, in terms of monitoring the media, in terms of monitoring the media again, and this is me as a citizen journalist and monitoring the media and how they're relating to a citizen journalist, interviewing a citizen journalist. This is, how many people have seen this video here? Okay, I'm not going to show it then. You guys should definitely check this out online. It's one of the most valuable videos I ever saw of the Egyptian revolution, and it's some people sitting on their balcony capturing something that no traditional media outlet could cover. And this had such a big impact on people in Egypt and abroad in terms of building up their support, motivating them, sharing the information about what's happening, etc. And this never would have happened without a person, a couple people on a balcony with their cell phone camera, or flip camera, whatever. Bring this up. Now, I'm not going to go into the quality of writing element, but this is such a core, important issue to address. Here in Lebanon, in the region, and globally, how many people here consider themselves really good writers? Okay, like 7 or 10. How many people write, put stuff online, but actually think they're pretty bad writers? Okay, about the same. What you just got to keep in mind is that in any sort of communication, there are at least 2 people. And there's a lot of content that has a lot of value, that's really interesting, it's really important to get out there, but it's packaged in a way that it's really difficult to consume. You don't understand it. There are tweets that I look and I feel like there's got to be something important there, but I just don't understand what they're saying. And there are a lot of people around that if they can't consume your content, then it's not having nearly the impact that it should. And a big part of our effort here, even though we're a media outlet, we basically run Hibr as a writing clinic. We have 2 of our main editors here, and they spend a huge amount of time working with young people, working on great, valuable stories, but that they need a lot of help to make it packaged in a way that's consumable. More importantly, though, that I was going to talk about, but also I'm going to rush through really quickly in this, is about ethics. And what are the ethics of social media? Someone a citizen journalist, they live kind of 2 lives here of sorts. And they're as a publisher and as a person. And you have to think of your life here. We're not going to go through this all in details because we want to get back to discussion. But you're a person. What do you put online? What do you put on your Facebook? Keeping in mind that if it goes online, even if you think it's secure, it's not. And whatever embarrassing pictures from the Friday night from the party, etc., that goes up, that you just want to share with a couple of friends, you're releasing that out into the world, and you can never take that back. You write something on your blog, you write something on Twitter. Reputations are very hard to build, good reputations, and bad reputations are very easy to bring upon yourself. In terms of journalistic ethics, as they differ from citizen journalism, social media ethics, I'm just going to quickly run through some of the code that we pulled together through about a 6-week or 2-month process with young people from around Lebanon to develop the Hibr code, what we call the Mithaq Hibr, and to see what you guys think. This is a cool video, but should we watch it? Now, how many people here who are content creators in some way have put much thought into their own kind of values or codes in terms of the content? Some people have. That's good. What do you have any lines that you draw? I mean, do you verify content before you tweet it? Definitely you verify? Own personal views of something. So it's safer there, too, in terms of verification or non-verification. I mean, are there other specific codes or elements that people just told themselves they will not cross, they won't publish, they won't write about, etc.? Always mention your source. How many people always, I'm going to flip it around. How many people here don't always mention their sources when they're writing about something? They just kind of write, maybe interview people, maybe take some sources, but forget or neglect to put sources online in the story. Everybody sources fully? I'm going to flip the question around. How many people source everything completely? All right, that's good. I mean, a few people. In terms of the people, if you put thought of it, how many people who are bloggers or have their own site or something like that who actually have a written code up? Have a written code of ethics or their own code of values or principles or something like that? Not counting Hibber. Or Jaritak, I guess. Jaritak. So one or two others actually have it written up. What is important, I don't think that you need to have something actually written explicitly on your blog or on your Twitter account or something like that that says these are my ethics, these are my values, etc. in terms of my writing. But again, keeping in mind that it's very difficult to build up reputations and it's very easy to destroy your reputation. And so it needs to be clear in terms of the content that you put up, in terms of how trustworthy you are, how well sourced you are, how transparent you are. How many people would write about something, write an article about something that they had some kind of connection to, or a friend was putting on a concert and you want to do a review of the concert, or a friend has an art show and you do a review of the art show or something like that. Is that problematic? It is problematic. Can you do it? If your friend is having an art show and you want to do a review, you can do it, you just have to disclose your relation. I think this kind of transparent element is perhaps the most critical element, disclosing any possible conflict of interest to protect you and your reputation if people think that you're biased around. Now just quickly, in the Hibber code, I'm just going to race through these really fast. These were developed again with about maybe 20 young people, 25 young people over the course of summer 2009. H, high quality and reliable journalism, independence, balance and avoiding bias, respect for the readers, respect for people who want to respond, cultural appreciation and literacy, openness and inclusivity, no discrimination, ethics and values in our society. Now this is one that I think people have a lot of difficulty with balancing in terms of being journalistically pure and being an activist. Is it possible to be both? Is it possible to be journalistically pure, have no bias about something, and also be an activist? Is it possible? It is possible. How so? How can you be journalistically pure if you're trying to advocate and be an activist about something? You can show both sides, okay. So if you're showing both sides of an issue, you're in a balanced way, maybe you're not being an activist on it, but you're exposing the issue, promoting discussion around it. If you're fighting for a cause, etc. I think that this is one of the core issues in terms of, and it's one of the things that we've dealt a lot with Hibber, that we are activists, and there are certain core values that we hold dear, and we are okay with advocating around. We're okay with saying we're anti-slavery. I mean, can we really, should we be balanced on that? Should we be balanced on that topic? Anyone think we should be balanced about, giving the pro-slavery side and the anti-slavery side? You think that we should give both sides of the argument? Okay, you're more of a pure journalist than we are, perhaps. There are things that in our view, we're very okay with making the decision on. Now, there are other issues that are much more complicated. We just had a debate a couple days ago, and we've been doing coverage and participating in the protests around Isqat al-Nizam. How many people have been to any of the protests or read anything or participated in that at all? A few people. So this is an issue that, even though many of us fall on one side of that debate, within that side of the debate, there are many differing opinions. And we don't all fall on that side of the debate. And so this is one of the issues that we're trying to balance very clearly about. How do we foster discussion on that topic? How do we foster dialogue on it and sharing opinions, et cetera, writing about it, but in a way that is true to the different groups, the different parties, et cetera, that are part of this, this debate. Really what it comes down to in all of this is how do you want to define these things for you? Define your balance points, define the things that are part of your principles, etc. And I think critically to figure out what that is, if you publish it or not, is fine. Now, just to kind of close and stuff, this is another one of the interesting elements. This is one of the anonymous folks who's on TV, passionately arguing about an issue that they care about anonymously, so hard to figure out in terms of sources, etc. But also in terms of mixing the citizen journalism side, the activist side, and the traditional media side. This is one of the issues that actually, it came up yesterday, and Nadine Mawood mentioned it, in terms of internet and broadband. It's one of the issues that we think is very valuable and important here. And what she said yesterday was very kind of telling point. Of course, people think that internet access is a right, but taking that even further and saying that slow internet is a form of censorship. And as an issue, this is kind of an invitation that we wanted to throw out in terms of this being a tech conference, in terms of it being an activist session in citizen journalism, etc., to invite people. There are now 3 groups that are working on this stuff. There is Internet, there is Lebanese one, Fast Lebanon, and there is Broadband Lebanon. And all of them, hopefully they'll get together at some point and figure out how to collaborate and support each other. But there are 3 groups that we also feel like we don't have to be balanced on this issue. And unanimously, whether we think that, if you guys also agree, that we encourage you guys to be a part of that debate. Again, this stuff is just part of a sliver of the training stuff that we do around here in citizen journalism. And we're working to release an open source guide. Another part of our ethics around openness and Creative Commons, et cetera, and working with SMEX on the Creative Commons stuff. And that's it. Thanks.
Thanks very much, both of you, for very interesting presentations. First thing that came to my mind after seeing both of you is that the strategies that you had, Mohammed, I don't think that, I feel that organizations, profit-making organizations use them more. And when it comes to citizen journalism, and certainly the events we've seen recently, these things kind of just happened. People self-organized. They didn't go through these specific questions and goal setting. Would you agree that perhaps that's the case, and actually setting a strategy that has to reach an end goal is more relevant to commercial organizations than, let's say, NGOs or other youth outlets? What's your view on that?
Well, most of the organization, yeah, you're right. Don't do that. But in the middle of the way, they get in a point where like they don't know what's their goal. They don't know what they're doing anymore, so they end up failing. شوي شوي. يعني they end up losing the momentum. They end up being in the same circle and the same stuff that they're doing. So building a strategy from the beginning, or even after they start, maybe in the middle of their way, will reshape all their online presence, and it could give them more potential to get what they want.
I think oftentimes the online presence or the online activities are a reflection of the organizations or the efforts themselves. And we find the same if you want to go back a few steps in terms of just writing per se, that if people have a difficulty writing a clear argument or a persuasive argument, or writing a journalistic article, or writing a balanced or unbiased or well-sourced article, then they likely are having those same problems inside their own heads, in their own thought processes. And writing is just a kind of more refined reflection of that. In terms of discussing with people or arguing with people, intense topics, people have to come up on the spot in the discussion with their arguments, and oftentimes I think those are regurgitations of what people hear, of what they've been told, etc. And people are taught through the schools, through the system, through the family, the social system, etc., that they get rewarded for regurgitating what they've been told, and they don't get punished for copying and plagiarizing. And the same with going up the pyramid of sorts, that a lot of it comes down to these softer skills for organizations, for individuals, etc., of critical thinking, of analysis, of creativity, of individual thinking, that are at the core of those problems. And these are the writing or the websites, etc., are just symptoms, or just manifestations of that.
We see that social media is not a goal within itself. Let's say it's a tool that can be helping certain organizations to achieve goals, and those goals may differ. What's the real goal then of any citizen journalism? I mean, obviously you have to spread awareness, but after that, what's next? What's the duty of a citizen reporter? Any of you?
I mean, I think that there is many different goals or objectives that as there are citizen journalists of sorts. I mean, like we spoke about, there are people who want to advocate, there are people who want to share their own poetry, there are people who want to promote a certain cause, whether it's environment or disability rights or whatever. Or there are people who want to provide a sort of counter to an unfair or unbalanced media system. There are lots of different goals, objectives, etc. For citizen journalists.
I really think it's a very interesting question to ask. Like, if social media is not the goal itself, so what is the goal? Like, if we look for a second for the media since it started, and then the classic media, and then the TV, and now social media, I think the goal is not the media itself. The goal is behind the media. Like, what's happened lately also in Egypt, in Tunisia, the revolution wasn't happening because of Facebook. Facebook was a small bridge itself with other social media or social networks. The revolution happened because the people, they want it to happen. And that's something we heard it a lot. I mean, there was a misconception in the media, the Western media and the Arabic media in our region, that the revolution happened because of these tools. No, it didn't happen because of these tools. These tools were helping those people to use the media. They help, but the tools have been changed from like one direction of media to like integration media, and people were talking more to each other, building networks. All this helps in doing the revolution, but the media itself is changing, and it's getting more and more integrated and more building networks.
Great. I just want to ask one final question before I leave the questions open for the audience. And that's a little bit more about your training. Both of you do trainings to various different people, and I find that quite interesting. What, for you, is the main goal once you train someone? And how do you measure that success with your trainee?
You want to start?
Ahmed?
Okay. Well, for the last 3 years, we've been trying to train people inside Lebanon, outside Lebanon, in the region. And when we first started, I still remember, like we started in the root space. I remember that there was a lot of people that didn't know anything about social media, and now you can see it, like everybody knows about it. It's like happening. The change is happening by using these tools for social change. Our main target from using these tools, from training for people how to use these tools, is like to create the change that they want to do, like to do what they want to do, but in a better way. And we really believe that these tools are much more better than classic media, much more better than other tools so far. Maybe in the next 2 years, something else will show up, it will kill anything exists. So it's always changing. But now what's happening is like those media, those social media tools are really the best tools to use for the change that you want to create, either by your business or by your organization or by the protest that you're making. It can help in reshaping the community that you're living in.
Thanks. Go ahead.
I think the tools are very interesting and are empowering and support a lot, but a lot of the stuff that we do is also, again, kind of going back to these softer skills. We also, by the way, print in paper, and a lot of people think it's very strange that we print in paper in 2011. And for us, it was very important for a couple of reasons. One, that there's still a lot of people who are either not online or they're doing very limited things online. They're not browsing for interesting content, for interesting alternative media content, etc. And then second is that we really wanted to incentivize people to develop a passion around this stuff, a passion around writing, and a passion around writing things that are important in their communities or to their lives, etc. One of the main things that we try to do through our trainings also is to foster this sort of these habits of curiosity and self-learning. And I think those are actually maybe even more important than the tools themselves, because the stuff, when it comes down to it, quite frankly, the stuff that we're teaching, it's available online. I mean, we don't have any big secrets about this stuff. We're not coming out with any amazing technical breakthroughs or teaching people that things that that don't exist elsewhere. Really what we're trying to do is engage people in these processes. And especially with social media, that you teach people Twitter today how to do something, and in 2 months or 6 months, it's going to change. And so the trainings, the technical elements of the trainings themselves become outdated very quickly. And so what we try to do in this stuff is challenge people to figure out how to solve these problems themselves. They see something cool on Twitter, okay, we're not going to teach them how to do that, but we'll teach them how they can learn how to do that, and how they can explore, find these things, search, etc. And really, in my view, that's maybe more a measure of success for us. It's not how many people immediately after are using the things that we taught them, but 6 months after, are they using things exactly as we had them in the trainings, or are they evolving with these tools as the tools themselves are evolving?
Great answer, thanks very much. I'd like to take some questions from the audience now. I don't know if we have a mic floating around.
Mr. Muhammad Najm, do you believe that without Facebook and Twitter, if there was no such tool, the revolution will really happen? I believe in the opposite. If there is no Facebook, no Twitter, the revolution will not happen at all. So do you this, or what other tools have you know to?
Should we answer directly, or should we?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Well, that's a very interesting question, because if you go back a little bit in history and you see how the revolutions happened, and they happened from the communication tools that they use, that it's familiar with the people. So those tools are now familiar with us, and we know how to use them. We know how to network with these tools. So I think it's like the egg and the chicken discussion. Could be something like that. But I really believe that the revolution happened because the people want to change, and those tools were at the right moment, and people used it and take advantage of these tools, and they did it. Just like what they did in the 50s, and then like if you go back to history, there's a lot of communication tools, very interesting one, from like writing and put it on the wall, from like all different tools that made the change that happened.
Other questions? Yep, at the back there.
Hello. Yes, sir. I have two questions actually. One about citizen media and one about the strategy. Regarding the strategy, when we say we should focus on one social media at a time, or to start with. So there's this question: should I start with Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn, or which is beneficial for my company or organization? And about the citizen media, do you think citizen media is not biased when it's online mainly? Because we see that the group leader or the group administrator can easily delete any view or review that he doesn't like. So don't you think that the whole page will end up with the same view at the end? It's not like a talk show where everyone is saying his own view.
So for the first tool, like I was saying, like try first to stay with one tool for like maybe one target audience also, and give yourself maybe 1 month. And I'm talking about people who are not doing anything online yet. And which tool is the best? I think like you should know your audience first. For example, if we're talking about Lebanon, we have probably 5,000 users on Twitter in Lebanon. But if you're talking Facebook, it's 1 million users. So you need to know your audience, where they exist. Now, mostly all the people are existing on Facebook. So maybe the best way to do it is like maybe create some strategy to use maybe a Facebook page or Facebook group and push it more. And maybe after that, if you want to target more audience, you can go to LinkedIn or Twitter or other stuff.
In terms of the citizen media question, citizen media oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes is biased. But there are two elements of that. One, that again, like a normal media, first of all, a lot of traditional media outlets are also biased. But that any outlet, whether it's your Twitter or Facebook or a website or blog, etc., that you are in the process of building your credibility, and your credibility is based on what you do and how you behave on the page. It's based on what you write, it's based on how you moderate comments, etc. And so if you delete comments, people who put the comments know that they were there. And it's very likely if people see that maybe you're doing that, and then they take screenshots of your website, they see that you deleted them, and they take a screenshot of that, and they put it up, and very quickly you lose your credibility. In terms of outlets being biased, if they're advocacy outlets, or if they're personal outlets, etc., I don't think there's a problem with them being biased. And really, it's in the mass, the macro view of citizen media that you achieve the balance. And it's just like, you know, a Wikipedia page is a very interesting example of a kind of citizen media, collaborative media, crowdsourced media. And yeah, there are Wikipedia members who are biased, but it's in the sort of competition between these biases that it moves a web page towards having a more balanced view.
Hi, my name is Salwa Qattan. I'm the social media manager at Bidaya Corporate Communications. I actually have a question. I think any of you can actually reply to it. As for replying or posting updates or tweeting in times of crisis, like for example, when the Egyptian revolution was going on, and you cannot say something on your personal level, but or your professional level. But if you just post anything else that is considered irrelevant, you are also considered as inconsiderate, and your brand loses its credibility. So, what are your input on? What's your input on that?
I mean, look, I think this stuff is changing so rapidly that there's a lot of fluidity in that. And so doing something that is maybe doesn't quite work out, I don't think that a brand would get severely punished for that. But if they do something that isn't ethical or damages their reputation, then that is something that could be very problematic. One of the things that I had a lot of trouble, and I know a lot of other people did as well, in terms of trying to follow these crises, is figuring out who are actual on-the-ground sources, on-the-ground witnesses for this stuff, and who are people who are retweeting things, who are retweeting others, or finding sources online or information, or following on Al Jazeera, etc. Some people are very good at clarifying and making clear the source of the information, but others were just saying things that maybe they saw on Al Jazeera, but then just including the information. And so you don't know if this person is on the ground in Benghazi or in Cairo or elsewhere, or they're sitting in New York or Paris or Beirut or somewhere and an observer of it. And so I think, again, the credibility, the transparency is the most important. And beyond that, again, the times of radical change are also times of opportunity, and they're great times for creativity and exploration. And so try some different things that haven't been tried before. Put some time, effort, thought into it, and maybe you could be working to start a new trend or building something new in process. Or some of them also could fail, and a month later you cancel that and try to move on to something else.
Do you have anything to add to that?
I just want to add something. I was checking the Twitter feeds, and I just want to add that to get the exact numbers on tweets in Lebanon is not really easy, and Twitter, they don't have any statistics about it. We were in a meeting a couple of months ago in San Francisco, and we talked to Twitter. They will try to publish all these numbers soon, hopefully, about the Middle East and the region. So I said 5,000 tweets. I was just trying to compare it to Facebook. I'm not sure if it's 1,000 or 3,000. Seriously, because there's also a lot of Lebanese who are using Twitter, engaging with the Lebanese community, but they are living abroad. Maybe some of them are here also, and they live abroad and they come here. So it's really hard to get the right number. And another point, I was gonna say that if you are techie or if you are really advanced, you can use any tools that you want. You don't need to stick with one tool. But I'm saying one tool for people who can feel overwhelmed by many tools. If you do that, the best way is to stick with one tool and to work strategically on it. But if you feel like you can handle a lot of tools, go ahead and do it. It will be great if you can handle all these tools together.
Thanks for that. Thanks. And one last question we have over there.
So my name is Osama Hassanin. I am the chairman of TechWadi in Silicon Valley. I just, as a follow-up question, all the names that you mentioned of Twitter and Facebook and Google and Apple, and I would add to these Amazon and eBay and what have you, are now buying about 2 companies a month at a value anywhere from 50 million plus or minus 25 million for people developing applications for them, since they actually make money, these big companies, from the applications developed by third parties. Can you please comment on just how vibrant is the developer community for these online applications, whether they are social media or monetization model a la eBay? Basically remembering that a young Lebanese last year, at the age of 24, launched a company, Milo, that within 2 years was purchased for $75 million, and it's a product comparison online website. Thank you.
I mean, I think it's a really exciting space to work in here, and we've been working specifically in the fields. I'm trying to promote and encourage social impact entrepreneurship and social impact innovation, more specifically than just innovation entrepreneurship in general. But I think there's great potential, and really hope that through a lot of the efforts of groups here, through TechWadi, there can be a big explosion in this. But again, there are the technical skill challenges, and there are the soft skill challenges, and of course other elements in terms of brain drain, etc. But really, in my view, it's the soft skill challenges that are the most important ones to address to really spark this sort of massive innovation that I think really has the potential to take root here. There are some good developers here. There are some good developers in Egypt and in Jordan and in many other countries. But what we really haven't found much are people who are passionate, are creative, are curious about following the trends, etc. I mean, oftentimes what we see most in this, as in people in other fields, graphic design or writing or any other social science or hard science field, is that people learn what they've been taught, and then they want to do what they've been taught. And I think this is something that has to be changed and modified somehow here.
Okay.
I think Mohammed's tweeting here now.
All right, that's all the time we have this morning. Munir, are you in the next panel?
Evidently, I'm moderating the next panel with 3 great case study groups.
Okay.
Shankabut. We have Nadine Mawad from Nasawiya, and we have SocDoc as well coming up, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Great. And Mohammed, I think you're doing some consultations?
We have a corner outside. I think we're going to sit if someone is interested to talk more about their online presence, and we can learn from each other and stuff like that.
Excellent. So make sure to check them out outside. Thanks very much, everyone.